It is taken away.
It's time for Zillion.
Yeah, that is on the PTSD list now for MVP. Never want to play against that one again. So Aurelion Sol taken out.
Also,
Victor
there's the Victor ban. Okay.
So they are they're going to be focusing out Fly this time, it seems. Nidalee and Vera so far from KT. Still have to take that one out of the hands of Ian.
Yeah, I was really surprised because Ian's most played champion is Varus this season. And Fly's is Victor, and they didn't ban either the Aurelion Sol or the Victor, which are his top two most played champions. And we now have seen yet again why many teams deem it necessary to ban the Aurelion Sol. They're also not going to first pick Gragas here. So will we actually see... Wow, they could...
That's a little surprising.
Sivir, maybe? But Maha, he has been not very good on Sivir.
I mean, he's been not very good.
No, he's had good Ashe games, he's had good Jhin games. I will agree on the whole, he's been rather subpar, but his attempts at flanking with Sivir in some team fights, his misuse of Spell Shield frequently in the last game was problematic, so I think the Vladimir is going to be the take, but it's going to give the Sivir over almost certainly to KT.
Yeah, my biggest problem with Maha is still just positioning, and that does come into what you've touched on with the flanks that we've seen from him on Sivir especially, but even on some other champions, there are times where he's just, gone way too ham, like flashing forward, trying to make plays, and just getting deleted because of it. So he's certainly been the weaker link on the side of MVP, despite their successes that they have had recently.
When he's playing Ashe, we've seen some pretty insane arrow accuracy out of him with MVP. So at least he's got that going for him. There are some positives to his AD carry play, but on the whole, I think you just need to keep him away from Sivir.
Yeah.
So KT may just decide to go for the Elise right here and say, well, Maha, you're not very good at Sivir, so actually it may be a boon to us if you have that champion, and they are just going to take the Elise, which nobody really prioritized in that last game, but with both the Nidalee and the Gragas out of the picture now, they will take score as most played jungler.
Yeah. And someday going to go for a very early Gnar, yet again had almost zero issues whatsoever in game one.
They tried to see what MVP's answer was. It was Gangplank. That didn't work out too well for them, so KT probably feels very confident now if attempt number one at Gnar counterpick was such a disaster.
Yeah, and I mean, coming down to ADD's champion pool, if they don't want to play the Gangplank again, where do you really go? Because the only thing left on the table that he's had success with is this Trundle,
yeah, you could definitely
which
go Trundle.
Does have some issues against that Gnar again as soon as you get that frozen mallet in.
Yeah, it's more of a balanced matchup because at least you can stop the hop with the Trundle Pillar. There's ways you can facilitate ganks that you just can't with GP, really. So it's not quite as bad as a matchup. Plus, we've also seen ADD like to go for the triple rejuvenation build into ranged top laners previously, which has been successful. But Fly against Malzahar.
Yep, banned in game one, open now, and he is going to lock that one in, going up against Ian in the mid lane, and Hajani yet again going to get Tahm Kench. So KT still getting a lot of these picks that were just wreaking havoc on MVP squad in that first game. Of course, not going to have nearly as much global presence without the soar ability for that Aurelion Sol, but Malzahar is going to be pretty brutal to go lane against.
I really like how they took away the Tahm Kench in the same round of the draft as Malzahar. When they played against the Rocks Tigers, and they attempted to play the Malzahar pick recently, one of the main things that they had to deal with was the Rocks Tigers are very good at playing around the Malzahar, and that takes a tool away to be able to do that. So it will be, in fact, a top Vladimir and a support Trundle.
Okay. Interesting. So they're going to flex this one around. So after seeing that Mel's come through, just want to put Vladimir up top. So it'll be Vladimir into Gnar.
Fly did really well against Jhin, against Kuzan in the Malzahar into Vladimir matchup in the mid lane. So they just don't want to deal with the early turret pressure. Now, MVP does have a pretty scary composition, especially with the TF coming in with the global into the backside, but Ezreal would be a viable pick, but they have a lot of peel too, have the Tahm Kench, so they're not absolutely locked into taking the Ezreal just to avoid some of the damage, but they're going to go for it anyway, just double down. Ezreal, Tahm Kench, not really a KT combination, that is certainly more of an SKT combo typically.
Very safe though. Arcane Shift, you have the Devourer there to keep get them out the missile voyage if you want to escape or aggress. So it's dynamic in that regard. So we'll see how this one goes for them. Going up against this Jhin and Trundle has a lot of potential to be punishing. So yeah, this could be a very solid bot lane for the side of MVP if Maha can get rolling on this Jhin early.
Now Vladimir, one of the old lanes that used to really punish Vladimir was Olaf. And the reason why is because after he pulls, basically you run up on him with true damage, and then after he pulls, he just eats a million axes. Or you could just hit an axe and run around the like basically follow him on the outside of the pool, and then pick up the axe and just slow him forever and kill him.
Yeah.
Now, Gnar is actually going to be functionally similar if he goes for an early Frozen Mallet. So ADD maybe experiencing some pain. I don't exactly think this is a great matchup for Vladimir in the early game, but we'll see how Sunday plays it.
I mean, typically with the Vladimir, we see the Spirit Visage come out, which it does still help because at least you get the AP from that HP, but that ratio has been nerfed. So
yeah,
it's
also
going to be interesting with him going up against this Gnar that is just going to be full, you know, 80 damage. Like, how do you build against this early on? Do you just go straight for a Proto Belt?
I don't know. I'm not liking this flex, Achilles. I think it raises too many questions about what this lane is going to look like. But you know what? Maybe we'll see another lane swap and we won't have to deal with it.
Yeah, quite possibly. MVP just kind of getting wedged into a less than desirable situation. So now have to handle KT. Let's see if they can do it as we go to game 2. Alrighty, Mountain Drake, yet again. Gonna start us off. We'll see if we get an Infernal pop-up this time. Didn't have one in the last game. So you never know. But Fly back on the Malzahar, definitely one to be watched. We can see ADD, of course, just going to be starting with that Doran shield. Going to be extra relevant now in this matchup against Someday.
Yeah, I'm scared for Ian, though. He's got an Elise in the jungle, and he's not going to take Cleanse. He's going to be dodging out with 2 summoners, but Elise Malzahar is a pretty dangerous combination if you're a mid laner, especially one without any inherent movement abilities like Twisted Fate. Getting caught out by an Elise Cocoon basically is just an instantaneous trap onto a Malzahar ult, and vice versa. I mean, once Malzahar's is passive up, you can't gold card him, so he just walks right on top of you. And Fly also has 2 movement summoners.
Well, this will definitely be an interesting one. I mean, Beyond on the Rek'Sai in the past has had some pretty strong games, so he can create that lane pressure and try to get these guys ahead. ADD especially, I feel like, is going to need some assistance, but we can see it's going to be starting in the jungle for now, and then someday we'll be able to move straight into that lane. So not going to see a swap enacted. Whether or not they want to do a late swap is going to be the question now for MVP as they do enter these regular lanes.
Yeah, KT got arguably the short end of the stick by having a lane swap in the last game when they probably would have really preferred standard lanes, and they still crushed. In this game, we're going to have to see how this Gnar Vladimir matchup does, because this is very new, and I'm not overly familiar with it, so I think once we see first item completion, though, it's not going to be pretty for Vlad. And as you say, what is Vlad going to build?
Yeah.
He doesn't have a lot of options.
You can't just aggress.
Well, yeah, and it's like Zhonya's is even worse now that his passive got nerfed. Yeah. You don't want to go first item Zhonya's anyway. Like you said, maybe it's a proto belt.
I mean, the AP to HP ratio did go up, and it was the HP to AP that got reduced. So getting a little bit more glass cannon is not that bad because he will get more health than before. But even so, you're going to take so much damage. It's just that that HP is just going to get shredded no matter what because of the hyper from Someday. So this is just a really bad spot to be in from MVP, at least on paper right now.
There's one of the reasons why we see Gnar first pick so early, or blind pick, is there's not a really good itemization solution to him. As you say, the hyper damage is magic, and otherwise he builds AD. So before you get 2 items, and because of his range, he's challenging to deal with.
Yeah. Oh well, we'll see how he fares. His gangplank in game 1 is just less than stellar. Wasn't really able to get off the ground. I think by the end of that, he didn't have 3 items completed. I think he was at about 2.5. So it's just a rough spot overall.
It's interesting. Ian is actually going to get the first blue buff of the game handed over to him, so he'll be able to put some pressure down right as he hits 6.
Yeah. Try to out-harass Fly in this mid lane, because, I mean, Fly's just going to be shoving up with the Malefic Visions, and, you know, that superior clear the Malzahar has at the moment, so the more cards that Ian can spam out, the better it'll be. Johnny's going to take a lot of damage there in that trade, but, of course, does have the gray health, so he'll be in a decent spot. We'll regen a bit of that back up.
That's one of the nerfs that came in on this patch to Tahm Kench. Is he's not quite so good at converting that damage to gray health anymore, but still gets a significant chunk of HP back, maybe a little bit overbold to push into the brush like that. Okay, first gank of the game. Score going to be wrapping around into the lane.
It's going to be seen by this ward. ADD holding onto the Sanguine Pull, uses it at the perfect moment to dodge out that Cocoon, so he'll keep himself safe. But did have to use the Ghost, so that's going to get rid of a lot of his juke potential should Score come for a repeat gank in the next couple minutes.
Yeah, that's eliminating mobility summoners was the main goal of that gank, and forcing ADD to play a little bit further back. So far things have been even, and just a little bit of pressure there beyond trying to answer on the opposite side, but Ward is in a place where he will be seen if he tries to tunnel through. Yeah,
right now it looks like he's just waiting for some of these jungle camps to respawn. He's been hovering around, but that was the late part of the clear there from Score, so it's going to be a little while longer before we see those Wolves of the Gromp coming back up. So Beyond's just going to go ahead and recall. Oh.
I don't know if he wants to do this.
Yeah, he spots Score, who is a level up and has a good amount of damage. I mean, at least a lot of percentage HP numbers there.
Yeah, not actually haven't got back to buy yet, though, at least. Or Beyond, rather. So
yeah,
I think it's smart that he just goes ahead and backs off. Just wards, though, or at least. Not the biggest deal.
Yep.
And
Max is going to come into mid. Doesn't have a whole lot. Uses the pillar.
Pops the Ghost.
Yeah. That's about it. Ian now, he's ghosting. He's going to go up top here, try to get onto Someday. Has the Destiny coming through. Someday jumps away, still gets gold guarded. Good amount of damage coming through from the Twisted Fate. One more hit'll do it. Flashes out Ian, flashes forward, and he's going to get it. First blood going over to the Twisted Fate.
Yeah, gets the summoner out of him. Both summoners, in fact, for Ian, but Someday overextended. Great reaction from Ian, too. He sees Malzahar zoned off thanks to his support coming up into the mid lane and use that Ghost, and he just instantaneously ghosts into the top side. Now, you do not expect the mid laner to be quite that fast to make a decision and to make the play in the top side of the map, so they get that first kill. Unfortunately, nothing for ADD, not even an assist. So while helpful for this Twisted Fate, I'm not sure how meaningful that's going to be to this top lane matchup.
Yeah, and you can see Someday.
He's going for MR, okay.
Yeah, he was chunked out pretty low in the trades. Was going decently evenly with ADD, but wants to mitigate as much as possible. So we'll get that Spectre's Cow, looking for a back denial. But ADD does intelligently back up out of range of that boomerang. And he does have TP available, so he could match that if necessary, but he should be able to walk into lane. Nope, never mind. It's just going to go straight into lane, into the face of Someday. He's coming back in with a Seeker's Arm Guard, so this could be a very early Zonia's coming up for Vladimir. Okay. Meanwhile, Hachani getting jumped on, has that great health building up. He's in a really rough spot, gets the Devour in, onto Max. Now Arrow arriving, uses the heal to try to keep him alive. Beyond going low, has the Malefic Visions, and that last auto attack from Arrow catches him as he flashes away. True Shot Barrage, it does fly straight, and that will find another kill. And Ian, one more hit, there it is, dink. Elise will find a kill. So just like that, 3 kills coming onto the board for KT, and they're looking for a 4th one as Maha is retreating back towards that tier 2 tower. Takes that Mystic Shot, flash in from Score, flash away from Maha. Will keep himself alive, but KT, they just opened up so much with this trade.
Yeah, absolutely. Score's on the bottom side of the map already, so they think they have Hachani caught out here in the jungle, but they just takes a bite out of Max right there. And Arrow, again, faster to come up, so it quickly turns into a 4v3. Maha down in the bottom side, pushed up to the tier 1 and farming. So Arrow picks up the double kill with the True Shot Barrage. Score, and they try and hand this over with the Malefic Visions. He has to take that last auto attack as it falls off to make sure that the kill goes over to KT Rolster. And with that, KT just racing back into this game.
Yeah. And, I mean, he got some nerfs to his defensive stats, but should never go over-aggressive on a target like a Tahm Kench. He does have a million tools to keep himself alive. And the arrival of Arrow on that Ezreal, who can just, arcane shift up the lane, up the river to get himself there even faster. Was able to arrive with the heal to save Hachani's life. So
it's not only that, you have a Malzahar with a combat ultimate available.
Yep.
So he's got the Nether Grasp, which is going to lock down one of the members of your team and is very powerful in the early game before people have a lot of ways to get out of it. So you have to, without the QSS on the table, without limiting his targets. And that's the thing, when we've seen the Malzahar fail for KT, it's because the other team has a lot of ways to basically stop Malzahar from getting a good channel off on that ultimate. But, they've got some tools. They have the Rek'Sai and Burrow gold card, of course.
Pillar.
Root, Pillar. So they do have some things to do with, but when you're skirmishing against the Malzahar, that's when he's really at his most powerful, because you are inherently going to have fewer of those tools off cooldown and able to use against a Malzahar. So 2v2, 3v3, Malzahar really excels on that, especially because a lot of his damage is single target in the first place.
Yeah.
And the silence is also more effective the fewer people you have around. So his kit, really nice for the skirmishes, and taking that one early with a Twisted Fate. You want to be making, if you're MVP, you want to make plays in the side lanes. Don't fight in the mid lane. Do not fight around the Malzahar. Fight where the Malzahar isn't. That's the whole point. So taking that a little bit too far.
Well, Beyond was looking for that as he goes up to this top side, but Someday was just walking back from a recall. Does spot him on that ward that just got cleared out, so they know exactly where that Rek'Sai's at. And now, score pretty deep into the jungle. It's over by that red buff. Could be rotating down. They might go for a pinch now on a Maha. Hachani's coming around the side. Does get the tongue lash. Damage coming in onto Max. Destiny's going to get popped, but Maha is already gone. Arrow finds the kill. And the Twisted Fate is not going to TP down. Fly was already there with the Ghost popped to follow up. And it's just going to be another one on the board for KT Rolster, who could take this turret. They could take Dragon. They just have a million options available to them. And ADD now up top in a bad spot. Someday going really aggressive. Gets a good amount of damage in, but won't be able to find that kill quite yet. Still Vladimir, but is really starting to lay on the pain.
Well, he knows that there's no threat, right? He just saw Destiny get popped. The rest of his team was busy winning a team fight where he didn't even have to use his TP to get down into the bottom side of the map. And Fly has just been so good tonight. Even in that last engagement, he started the roam first because the play was being set up by Score. And then as soon as he sees the Destiny popped, he immediately ghosts to make sure that he could be there in time. Now, it wasn't necessary because Maha died so quickly on the dive from Arrow, but his presence in the side lanes from Fly has just been on point. He's been there faster in both of the games. He's been thinking ahead of his opponent, and he's just been outplaying him when it comes to pressure. Yeah,
he's been doing really well. And I mean, part of this, as we've discussed for the last couple weeks or so since 6.11 hit, is how aggressive he's been as of late. Even with the Victor just going forward into people, ghosting forward to just make sure that he can get that Chaos Storm onto a target, work them down, very quickly. And that's translating across all of these champions that he's been playing as of late. So the Malzahar is no exception.
Yeah, we questioned it the first time it came out when they decided that they were going to play it into the Rocks Tigers no matter what, blind pick it, every game, whatever. But the success on it ever since we saw it in that first series has been good. I think it was a little bit of growing pains, them learning what they can and can't play it into. In which case it was 2 games of Tom Kench from the Rocks Tigers. You'll notice this time they've adapted their, not only that, they took the Malzahar and the Tom Kench in the same round of the draft.
Yeah.
So there's no chance to take it away. So I like what we're seeing. I did wonder why the Tom Kench was left up in that Rocks series where they were thumped. Yeah. But this has been a really good change of pace for them, and playing around this bottom lane has borne fruit this second game of the series. And
that's like sort of another questionable fall through in the draft here for MVP, is not getting the Tom Kench. Actually, I'll have to hold that thought as Arrow does get aggressed on, will get rooted out by that Jin W. He's not going to actually fail flashes over the wall. The Nethergrass finds the Trundle though. It's not going to do a whole lot of damage. Now ADD is coming around the side lanes with Beyond, trying to get on to Fly. Gold card drawn here by Ian. Will catch him as Fly flashes over the rest of KT. Now pinching up. ADD going into the Sanguine Pool, trying to regen as much as he possibly can. And Johnny is going to go low. Might get popped. One more Q from that. Vladimir will do it, but he gets out of range now. Sunday's here, and he's got the CC. You want CC? I brought plenty with me. He's going to lock up and take out ADD. Overall, it's going to be a 1-for-1. Really scrappy and sloppy on both sides. but pretty evenly traded.
True
Shot Barrage is coming out. I don't know if it's going to get there in time.
Oh.
It might. Here it comes. Will it hit? It's going to hit. See ya. That was the biggest crescendo I've ever heard your voice do.
That was great.
That was a really good shot. I thought he was going to get out in time, but I guess I overestimated.
Wow, that is so annoying if you're Ian, because Arrow was the one who actually, he was the one who died in that fight.
Yeah.
So for him to revive and then get a kill from the base is absolutely hilarious.
That's a really good point.
So watch how this, Arrow's down here alone.
This was
face
really
checking.
impressive.
Like, why would you even?
And then he fail flashes. Like, you are nowhere near that wall, buddy.
So bad from Arrow. Just Essence, or Arcane shifting into the brush blind. And then Fly, at least he's here alongside Someday with the TP to try and save this one. Good play from ADD, though. He actually draws a lot of the cooldowns out while being able to heal on the side with consistent transfusions.
And then Someday is just like, I'm Mega now.
Yeah. Finally is able to hit that Mega Gnar and follow through. And the only person who's going to really be doing damage to him at that point was Maha, because he started with a magic resist early on.
And then
that is wonderful. The respawn True Shot Barrage. So they saw Ian go into that brush with the minion wave. He had a teammate who was watching that.
Oh,
goodbye, ADD.
ADD is watching his death
Goodbye,
happen before his very eyes. Someday on the other side of the map. So, okay, so the top laners on both sides just going to get caught out by multiple members of the enemy team. They will both go down. Not really sure why Someday was in there, but
it was time for
got chased from the bottom. I don't know.
It was time for both top laners to walk into 4 members of the enemy team Achilles. It was that time of game, I guess.
Yeah.
And well, that'll just reset everything here.
He just didn't feel like channeling the recall, so he's like, just take me. Send me back to base.
But the difference is in that trade is that Someday was actually applying pressure to a turret, and ADD was between his tier 1 and tier 2. So the turret actually coming out of that, so a worthwhile trade there for KT. They had to send Maha down bottom to deal with the wave.
Now KT's going to get themselves the Rift Herald yet again.
Guess who it's going to?
It's going to go over to Fly.
No, it's going to go to something.
I was hoping they give it. Can you imagine how much power you have in a push in a lane with a Malzahar with a Rift Herald buff? But give it to Someday, I guess.
He always gets it. And, KT is
Someday
actually
gets everything.
Yeah, he does. That's how KT wins. So you blame them?
Someday is like the Marsha of the team.
Actually, KT just...
Most of the viewers are too young to get that reference, probably.
KT actually takes the second most Rift Heralds behind SKT, so they really like that objective. But when you have a split pusher like Duke or Someday, it does make a lot of sense to really prioritize that. And worked out for them last game. It's going to most likely work out for them this game, too, with the kind of advantage they have this early.
Before all of the fights broke out, that was actually one of the things that I was trying to talk about, though, was the fact that the Tahm Kench had made it through the draft after that game 1. I really am surprised that wasn't the third ban from MVP, and instead they banned the Gragas, because Beyond on Gragas has been really strong. So for them to prioritize the Vladimir over getting Beyond on a really strong jungler was just very shocking to me.
I agree with you. I think the draft was messed up, also because...
I mean, they got pinched into this Vladimir top, so...
Yeah, exactly. But they banned the Malzahar in game number 1, so they knew this was possible. Ergo, they knew that a first pick Vladimir could be counterpicked by a Malzahar, and flexing it into the top side against a blind pick Gnar, which KT showed the previous game they were willing to blind pick into whatever they selected. Like, the logic doesn't exactly add up here for MVP's draft strategy.
Yeah. But just after that whale of a game that Johnny had, just constantly abyssal voyaging in, getting those picks, or helping to get those picks, I would think that was something they wanted to avoid, but it seems like it isn't so. He hasn't had the opportunity to make that same amount of plays that he had in game 1, but there's still plenty of game left, so we'll see what he's able to do. Second Mountain Drake spawning up here. KT are going to go ahead and net that for themselves, and it's going to be an Ocean as our third, which at this point we can only expect they'll be able to grab for themselves as well. Someday sitting in the brush waiting for ADD to pinch forward. Going to walk out now and try to get onto this Vladimir. He doesn't have a frozen mallet yet, of course, so slows will just be coming from the boomerang, but he is still
so
just
dumb.
out pressuring. He gets the ghost. It's just like, all right, yeah, get out of here.
Yeah, Cowl too for ADD. This This is a really bad Vladimir build. Arm guard into cowl is... That's not going to help you.
It does nothing.
It really does nothing against Nar. It also, coincidentally, does nothing in team fights, so it's lose-lose Achilleos.
Yeah. Well, now he's going to be committing fully for that Zonias as the Fiendish Codex does come through, so he's at least opting into finalizing one item.
I don't know.
But
I
still,
think maybe you go...
Oh. You go to the mid lanes, what you do. Hachani going to get gold carded, still has that shield that he can pop, and they're not going to be able to get him. This could be a turnaround now for KT. Get a decent amount of damage in on the max, but minions dying around him as that subjugate as well out there, so he's going to get a little bit of HP back and keep himself safe. But that's the destiny down here for Ian, so Twisted Fate going to be without that global pressure for a little while. Score coming around the side, says thank you very much for the red buff. You don't need that beyond. It's just, it'll be better with me. It'll be safer with me.
Looks better on Elise anyway.
It goes well with the skin.
And the women deserve the stones.
She's got to be...
Okay, the runes. Give her the fancy jewelry.
Yep. Well, beyond C's
I mean,
score.
Rek'Sai is female, but non-human, so.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's going to be another grass fuse. Fly actually going to cancel that one out as the TP comes through from ADD. He's going to arrive a little bit too late to really do anything. I feel like maybe you wanted to cancel that one out and stop this split push that someday is going to start off, as he does now have that teleport available to him.
It's going to be gross now that he has Frozen Valor.
Well, Hachani gets rooted, has to pop the shield, so he's not going to get a lot of that HP back, so that will at least send the Tom Kench back to base, but someday has that top lane moving up now. Doesn't have many wards, though, so he's not really comfortable pushing too much further forward, so it looks like he's just going to back off, roam down, and offer up some support.
Now, Fly is being super annoying on this Malzahar, too. Again, he's just drifting between the mid and the bottom lanes to clear minion waves.
And annoying and Malzahar are kind of synonymous.
Well, let's talk about possible lane assignments, though, because MVP has been put in an awkward situation. So, just like last game, ADD cannot lane versus Someday, right? And Malzahar is split pushing, which means that Ian has to be in a side lane to attempt to counteract the split push, right? But the problem with that is that then he is left to only TP into the mid lane to make plays.
Yeah.
Well, who's in the mid lane? It's Ezreal Tom Kench. Good luck trying to get those kills. So right now, MVP's composition is limited in what they can actually do on the map.
Yeah.
So they basically can't win if they're spread out in 3 lanes. So they need to rethink their lane assignments. Ian cannot be in the same lane as Fly. Okay,
he can't be in the same lane as Fly, can't be in the same lane as Someday. He's going to Destiny out. Use the Abyssal Voyage,
nice win.
so yeah, they'll trade out those cooldowns. But, I mean, yeah, you put him in against Someday. He's got a Frozen Mallet completed in a Spectre's Cowl with Merc Treads. He's not going to take damage. You can't stun him for very long, and he's going to stay on top of your ass. So Ian's just in a really rough spot no matter where he goes.
Well, also, you have the additional problem of who goes into a side lane when there's this Abyssal Voyage, because Twisted Fate, Vladimir, and Jhin, none of them have dashes, abilities to get over walls. It's really easy for KT to collapse with the Ezreal and the Tom Kench and use the combined slows of the Iceborne Gauntlet and the Tongue Lash to really just get things moving. It's a conundrum, and I really don't think MVP has any answer to this situation.
They
basically
just stay in the base.
Well, that's what they're going to do, because they can never push out past the river.
Yeah,
as long as KT doesn't make a huge mistake, there's not a lot of counterplay as long as Fly keeps doing what he's doing against Ian.
Yeah.
The one thing that they could do is walk into the same side of the jungle that TF is on in the enemy jungle, then get gated on. That would be a problem for KT. But everything else, they've got under control.
Yeah. I think you just say, screw it, we're just going to sit in the base. So when you guys are done, do the attack on Titan approach, just sit behind all the walls.
That didn't work too well.
That didn't really work out, though.
It's not going to work in this game either, Achilleos. Spoiler, the attack on Titan turtle strategy doesn't work when you feed the other team into a monster, and then they just come and kill you.
Speaking of monsters, well, it was a well-timed Zonias, but that's about all you got, ADD. Straight to a stun, and here's Big Ben shoved down your throat. He goes down, ADD.
I think he shoved it somewhere else, Achilleos.
Okay, well, in all the places that don't feel too well. So that's going to be tier 2 going down at top and bottom. MVP are going to try to engage onto this one. Hachani already devouring score to walk him out. Current calls there. He'll land a couple of shots, land all of them actually, but still not going to find any picks. And now Max trying to retreat, getting slowed up by that Iceborne Gauntlet Ezreal. Not going to be able to do anything, and some days like, well, thanks for the free turret.
You have to send somebody down there for your MVP. You can't. The answer to getting soloed is not try and fight on the other side of the map when they're stronger. That doesn't work for you. The answer to getting soloed is to trying to wave clear and sending somebody down there so you don't lose a turret and get soloed at the same time. You can't win that 4v4.
I mean, they were in a circumstance where they were going to lose a turret either way, but instead they chose the option that made them lose both turrets.
Also, there was a very real danger of Someday TPing.
Well, speaking of TPing, Destiny does get used here by Ian. Someday's still pretty tanky, and he is kiting out. He almost wins this. Abyssal Voyage comes through, but won't arrive in time to find him. But that's going to be Maha getting locked down with another grasp, but he falls, score, finding the kill, and the rest of KT hot on the chase, trying to find some revenge for the death of Someday, and they'll pick up 2 kills for that one as Beyond does go down. True Shot Barrage is going to fly through, but ADD not quite low enough to get taken out by that one.
How was Maha even there? Like, why was he even in the river right there to try and follow up on that kill?
I don't know.
He walked way too far forward, and he has no, or low rather, mobility on this Jhin. So what are you going to do? Basically, easy response there from KT on what could have been a takeaway kill. Like, why is Maha flanking through the river? That's not a place you need to be. Like, he just gets absolutely destroyed. He gets silenced straight into a Malzahar ult.
Like I said, problems with Maha and his positioning.
Dude, the Maha flank is becoming a real thing. Why?
Yeah,
why?
Hit him with the Maha flank.
He knows.
We have a new term.
Yeah, the Maha flag. He knows that the Abyssal Voyage is up, and yet he chooses to walk through the river with no wards in it and just gets styled on by Malzahar and Tahm Kench.
This is good. I like it. So we have like.
He also didn't help at all.
We have the Insec, the Azir Sec, the Expeke, and now we have the Maha flank.
The Maha.
It's good. We're just adding to the list. These will go down in infamy.
It's so. I thought it was egregious on Sivir, but at least he had Spell Shield, the Sivir ult when he did it. Like, this was straight up just Jhin, like, bumbling through the river.
I am immobile. I hope nobody catches me here.
It's okay. He's got good intentions.
Yeah.
He actually is really good at skill shots.
This is also like Attack on Titan. Like,
Maha is very good at hitting skill shots.
It'd be really bad if a Titan showed up right now. Boom! Here it is. Like, it's like, oh well, that's inconvenient. Someday, almost gonna get popped, but Devour there from Hachani yet again, saving lives. And yeah, Someday is the Titan to MVP's humanity. He transforms into a big thing. He doesn't have to like bite himself to trigger it or like harm himself like they do in the show, but just suddenly is a giant monster and he just rips your face off.
He's been doing a good job of that this series. He may not have the most impressive stat line, but the pressure he's been able to put out, the objectives he's taken, that's what's really important. And he's been doing well. He also has Executioner's Calling against ADD. What a smart guy he is. I love KT's Executioner Calling builds this series.
You love KT? Who would have thought that? Max is going to get chunked out as he flashes
on
the wall someday. Jumping forward. 2 more hits, actually. He'll be able to finish that one out, which is basically a solo kill. Beyond, nowhere to go. Is going to get taken down by Fly. And that should be Baron going over to KT Rolster, who are just coming in surgically in game 2.
Yeah, you have Rek'Sai. There's probably no need to really go that deep right there. You should have enough Tremor Sense to tell if they're going to be doing that Baron. So a little bit of an overextension there for MVP. KT picks up the early Baron. 32 minutes our game time in game number 1. Could see a similar closure here as KT has just been dominating tonight.
It could be faster than that. And Fly, he's got this build down that he wants. He's still going for that Leandries. Makes a little bit more sense on that Malzahar as he just really whittled them down with the Malefic Visions, but makes it work on the Aurelion Soul as well, it would seem.
Yeah, it's just, you keep applying that burn too. It's just so annoying.
Look at how many there are.
It's Cockroach Swarm.
That is just so silly. Oh, good lord. Well, MVP are, they're screwed.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. What are you going to do? You still have to deal with Someday in this split push. He's still got the Rift Herald buff to help him out, in addition to a Baron buff right now, and being pretty far ahead.
They basically need a miracle at this point to come back, and that's not going to happen. 10,000 gold down in 28 minutes. KT are really padding their differential stats. And ADD going to get grabbed up. Still getting a little bit on the boomerang. Barely going to miss. ADD will be able to walk out with his life, but for how long, we'll see. It's going to be the inhibitor tower going down as KT pushes into the base, and they're just shattering this very easily, and hit goes down. Third call opened up here by Maha, but doesn't really have access to any key targets. The repel there by Score, maybe a little bit ill-advised, but he's able to come down a little bit further away, and ADD's just going to get jumped on. The Cocoon comes through, and Arrow will find the kill. He's gone way too far forward with no way to get out, so he gets popped. The Vladimir down. Now KT are safe to stick around and poke out as much as they want. The Destiny will come through. They're going to get onto Hachani. Reginald, is that you? That wasn't a gold card. And Hachani's going to be safe.
It was a QSS from Hachani.
I thought that was a red card.
Oh, was it?
I don't think Hachani has a QSS.
He should, but maybe not yet. Maybe too early in the game for that.
I don't think it matters, because they're just going to steamroll through here. Arrow coming up with 2 more kills, the unofficial triple. And now the mid in him going to go down, and MVP are down to their last couple seconds of living in this game. Looks like KT will be able to close this one out at about the 30-minute mark.
Yeah, I did want to see if he had QSS. Most Tom Kench support players will build QSS at some point just for more escape. I guess I'll never know until the end game screen.
I'm pretty sure it was red card, but
you may well be right.
Yeah, KT Rolster just going to come in, fly thrown out the Nethergrass, won't be able to finalize the kill, but they're getting in underneath the fountain. Beyond will barely make it out alive. They actually answer one onto Arrow, but that's going to be the only thing they're able to pick up. Oh, he does have the QSS. But I could have sworn it was the red card.
It may be both. Right. We can both be right.
All right, I think he still threw the red card, but Hachani probably QSS off the slow.
Yeah,
is what I will say happened.
We'll go with that.
Yeah, we'll go with that one.
But yeah, QSS very important on Tom Kench as you get into the late game, because you need to be able to reliably devour a target on your team. So it's a typical support build.
This makes sense. I just thought that they were so far ahead that maybe he would just be like, I don't need to build this, but I guess that would have been a bit frivolous of him. So.
Yeah, same reason you build it on Janna back in the day. It just gives you basically a 100% chance of getting that disengage. So it's really important to the way Tom Kench plays and the way you want to fight in these team fights. So very nicely done by KT. I mean, what do you get? Just extremely one-sided games tonight. KT showing
surprisingly.
Yeah. Well, but I guess the worry is for KT. Like, we've seen all these tricks before. We've seen the Aurelion Sol, we've seen the Malzahar, and it hasn't worked against the top teams. Because realistically, KT is 0-2 this season against SKT. They're 0-2 this season against the Rocks Tigers. So when we look at them as a playoff team, certainly they've been doing well against teams that are below them in the standings, but they haven't yet shown that ability to close out a best-of-3 against the top 2.
Yeah, well, they get a easier. Well, actually, I don't even know if I want to say that anymore, because they play against Longzhu in their next set, and Longzhu has looked significantly better, even against Rocks just last night. Was surprising how close game 1 especially was there. So that could actually be a bit of a tall order for them to come out on top of, but I still think that they do have the upper hand. We'll see what Frozen can pull out, because his champion pool's been a bit limited so far from what we've seen from him, but he's still only played a couple games. But MVP for now. Have some time. They don't play until Saturday. They get some time to think about what they're going to do when they take on ESC Ever. So it will be the challenger team, the new teams of the LCK, the showdown between those two. And they definitely want to take away a win from that one, because after this loss, they need something to kind of boost them back up and feel good about the game.
And at least MVP has been consistent against teams lower than them in the standings. I mean, they're coming off, again, 2 wins over CJ, 2 wins over Longzhu. Those are their last 4 wins.
Yeah.
They've been able to deliver on that front, usually, again, through the better late-game shot calling. KT did not attempt any silly Barons tonight. It was much more methodical snowballing out of the early game. And if this had been the KT that we had seen play against Africa and SKT, they may have won both of those best-of-3s.
I think it's fair.
We'll see if they've actually fixed their problems, because that's been the main part. Maybe it's when they play against a better team, they get nervous that they're going to lose in the late game. They're like, we got to snowball this advantage really hard right now, or we're going to lose.
Yeah.
And that actually holds them back. But tonight they looked a lot more calm, really measured play. Very good sticking to their win conditions. Awesome to see that Aurelion sold again.
Yeah.
Which we never get to see because it's always banned, and this is why.
Yeah, I mean, there's a good reason for it. It's like Fakers is here, still gets bans. There's a damn good reason why people do that. So the Aurelion Soul is certainly something that should be taken away. But Hachani will actually net himself an MVP off of that last game. So he moves up to 5th, or 5 nominations. Deathless game there on that Tom Kench. And I mean, both games in this set with Tahm Kench, he just was running amok on the side of MVP. So very well deserved by him. And this was the really big engage from MVP that just handed the lead over to KT Rolster.
You can't do that. You can't do that. It was a 3v4. The communication wasn't good to say that Arrow was going to be coming into that situation. It was a 4v3. Also, the Malzahar super strong to engage those kind of fights, and Johnny just kept making the plays, helping Arrow get really fed in the early stages of this game.
Yeah. Just over and over again. We'll see. Arriving too late this time to save Sunday's life, but they converted this onto a plethora of kills as Maha was doing the Maha flank.
He was doing the he's pulling a Maha right there.
Yeah.
Coming around.
We'll see if we get that play in the base. We can find out if it's a red card or a gold card. But
mystery.
It needs to be solved.
It was a gold card.
No, but
it hit TF.
But
it hit Arrow.
I could have sworn that there was one before that. Maybe I'm going insane. I thought that there was a play before that where he threw the red card and it hit Shawnee.
Maybe.
And then he redrew, because that's a short cooldown. So I think it happened seconds before.
Okay.
I'm going to go with that one, or else I'm...
We'll call this the Achilles delusion.
I'm losing my mind, apparently, is what the other
No, you may be right.
is.
I don't know what happened in
we'll
that fight. I
find
don't
out.
recall the first part of it, but yeah.
I'm sure Twitter will tell me after the game is done, so.
QSS is doing work in that last fight, and Hachani, he's been great on the Tarek. He's really had some good games on the Tarek, gotten a lot of his MVP points from that champion.
Bringing out the proto belt on the Tarek is
so manly.
It's just hilarious to think about, like, and it's so genius because I would never really think I love proto belt. I love when Peanut uses it on Elise, but I never would really think like Tarek and oh my God, this is amazing.
Got to make that simple geometry somehow.
But Hachani did it.
He did.
He took one, and he touched the tips, and it came together.
That's right.
So, he's just been doing really well. I'm pretty sure he is the highest MVP ranked support that we have in the league right now.
I think that's probably fair to say.
So, because he's at 5th. He's tied for like 6th place, I think, with like a bunch of other people. But I'm pretty sure he's the highest up at the moment. But strong stuff from KT Rolster. We'll see if they can maintain that against Longzhu, who has been looking better. That's going to close it out for us tonight, though. Tomorrow we have a really good matchup for you. Starting things off, it's going to be Samsung versus SK Telecom, and then a Freak of Freaks versus CJ Entis. We'll see how that one goes.
Africa making a strong case for being the 5th place team again this year, so they've got to keep that ball rolling. And really, you have to say this is SKT's final challenge of this season. Like if they take Samsung tomorrow, it's going to be super hard for them to dethrone them out of 1st place because they do have a softer end of the season. They've already gone through most of the big challengers in the top half of the rankings.
Yeah.
Gonna be tough.
Yep, will certainly be a good game, so make sure you guys check that out. It's going to close it out for us, so be sure to watch that game tomorrow. Have a good night, and we will see you then.